Someone is watching your house right now. The reason is terrifying. Watch fast. You woke up to stillness, but not the peaceful kind. No, this was the kind that comes before a scream. Outside, the moon trembled behind torn clouds, and your house, once warm and ordinary, seemed to recoil in on itself. Something crossed into your space, something that recognized you even if you couldn't yet see it. At first, it was just the power blinking, off, on, then off again, followed by the sound of floorboards settling even when no one moved. Your reflection in the hallway mirror seemed delayed by half a breath, and your dog, that loyal creature, whimpered in the corner without reason. You lit a candle, and its flame danced sideways, as if pulled by breath from something invisible and watching. There is no warning when ancient things awaken, and tonight, one walked through the threshold as if it belonged to your blood. You don't remember inviting it, but it doesn't need your invitation. It was summoned by an echo, a sound only it could hear, something whispered long ago under your family's name. Now, every wall in your house holds its eyes, and every silence wraps its fingers around your spine. You tried to tell yourself it was just anxiety, but your skin knows better. The crawl at the back of your neck isn't fear, it's recognition. What entered your home tonight has been here before. It knows where you sleep, where you hide, where your faith has crumbled in secret. God says, what's hiding in your house isn't just a spirit, it's a relic, tied to an unfinished covenant your ancestors ran from. The curse wasn't broken, it was buried under floorboards and silence, passed down like a shadow that only grows darker with each generation. It wears the shape of an innocent thought, a passing dread, a flicker in your peripheral vision, but it is not innocent. You thought it came tonight, but it's been pacing your halls for years, waiting for the moment your doubt became a doorway. It watched you through glass and screens, waiting until your prayers lost their sharpness. Now it walks upright through your rooms, breathing in the warmth you no longer claim. Archangel Michael says, you are not losing your mind, you are standing at the edge of an invisible battlefield. He has stationed warriors near your windows, but their swords cannot swing until you speak with clarity. Your silence has become the binding rope, and the longer you hesitate, the stronger the watcher grows. There are markings now in places you forgot to clean, the edge of a windowsill, the base of a closet door, places only a creature with backward eyes would touch. These are not human fingerprints. They are signatures, written in the absence of light, proof that something dark has crawled close enough to brush against your breath. You find yourself waking at 3:17 each morning, heart pounding like it remembers something your mind won't say. And when you rise, the hallway feels longer, the corners deeper, the shadows more knowing. It's not sleep paralysis. It's a visitation. God says, you must name the invader or be shaped by it. If you pretend it is not real, it will steal your voice in increments, first your conviction, then your peace, then your purpose. The house you live in is no longer neutral, it is a site of siege, and you must decide who it belongs to. The truth is your lineage was once marked for holy fire, but someone made a pact in fear, not in faith. That pact echoes now through creaking doors and dying plants, through the feeling of being watched even in your own home. What walks now remembers every broken promise, and it has come to collect. The lights flicker again, but this time, they stay off just long enough for you to hear it breathe. Not a growl, not a whisper, just a presence, large and slow and deliberate. It is not hiding. It wants you to know it is here. It has waited so long. You check your phone, but there's no signal, not even static, just that glassy black screen reflecting a room behind you that doesn't quite match the one you're standing in. You're being mirrored, not monitored. Watched, but not from this world. Michael says, this enemy cannot be rebuked through ritual alone, it must be confronted with truth. You must remember what was once erased. Find the memory, the object, the buried thing that was never blessed, and prepare to burn what was inherited in silence. You try to step toward the door, but your body tightens, your legs feel like iron bars pulled from frozen ground. Something doesn't want you to leave. The house is shifting, realigning. The threshold you crossed so casually 100 times now feels like a gate between dimensions, and the cost of leaving unprepared may be worse than staying. Tonight is not about ghosts. It is about dominion. You were marked to carry light, but the Watcher came for your surrender. It cannot take you unless you agree to forget who you are. God says, before the sun rises, a choice must be made. Will you bless your house, call your name aloud, and cast out the one who watches? Or will you pretend it's just your imagination, and let it stay one more night? Because one more night is all it needs. Your own face feels unfamiliar now, not monstrous, not altered, just slightly off, like someone tried to copy you from memory and forgot what your eyes are supposed to carry. The bathroom mirror fogs from breath you didn't release, and when you wipe it clear, your reflection lingers half a second too long. Something is studying you from the other side, and it wears your shape like clothing stolen from a better day. The Watcher has moved closer. It no longer lurks in corners, it stands beside your thoughts, listening. It mimics footsteps when you're still, knocks when you're quiet, and breathes when you finally stop pretending everything's fine. There are no cameras, but you are being recorded by something older than technology, something that understands spiritual code, not signals. You feel yourself unraveling, thread by invisible thread. Not breaking down, being rewritten. Small details vanish, the hum of your fridge, the comforting creak of a favorite chair, the subtle warmth that used to rise from beneath the floorboards. Now there's just static, just cold, just the certainty that this place, your supposed sanctuary, is no longer yours alone. Archangel Michael says, the enemy has touched your memory. Not to erase, but to distort. Your mind becomes unreliable not because you are weak, but because distortion is the weapon of familiar spirits. They don't show up as monsters, they come as nostalgia, as unspoken grief, as lies whispered in your own voice. The betrayal has already begun. People you trust act strange around you, too polite or too distant, as if they sense something they can't name. They look at you and squint, searching for the person they used to know. Your shadow twitches differently when you're not watching. Your own heartbeat sometimes doesn't sync with your breath. You've begun to avoid the mirror entirely, not out of fear, but because you're afraid you'll start believing what you see. The Watcher has begun rewriting your identity from the inside out, and every time you accept one of its silent lies, you're not enough, you're already too far gone, you were never chosen, you give it ground. God says, the enemy's deepest cruelty is not the fear it causes but the agreement it seeks. It wants you to call yourself what it calls you. It needs you to look at yourself and see its design, not mine. It cannot claim your home without first convincing you to surrender your name. You hear your name called from another room, but no one is there. Just your voice, pitched slightly wrong, echoing through drywall as if memory itself had grown teeth. You feel watched, but it's not paranoia, it's possession in progress. The watcher is testing how far it can stretch your identity before you no longer resist. Michael says, the moment you stop naming yourself in truth, it wins. Speak aloud what has been silenced. Call yourself holy. Call yourself a fortress. Even if your voice shakes, even if your stomach churns, even if you feel like a fraud, say it. The spiritual world is made of sound. What you speak becomes soil. The night is longer now. Time seems to stall inside your house, as though the hands on every clock have conspired to trap you in this hour. There's no rhythm, just an unchanging present, heavy and distorted. You realize with horror that you haven't checked the time in hours because something doesn't want you to mark it. The front door has locked itself. You didn't touch it, but the bolt is turned. The air smells like metal, and your skin feels bruised from the inside, as if your body is resisting the space it's inside. This is no longer just about haunting, this is about hostile architecture, spiritual walls being reshaped around your silence. God says, the house is becoming a mirror. It reflects whatever spirit rules inside it. You were meant to carry light and shape space around you, but the watcher has found cracks. Your grief opened a window. Your fatigue left the back door ajar. Your fear gave it an address. It never wanted to be noticed. It wanted to become you. That's why your laugh feels foreign now. That's why the family photos on the wall look like strangers. That's why you sometimes catch yourself mouthing sentences you never meant to say. You are being stalked by a version of yourself that never should have existed. You walk past a mirror, and this time it doesn't even try to reflect you. It shows the hallway as it should be, without you in it. The watcher has begun editing you out. Not to kill you, but to erase you gently. It's more efficient that way, less resistance, more compliance. Archangel Michael says, your resistance is not futile, it is everything. Light must be declared in places where sound has been stolen. Take back your name. Walk room to room. Anoint the doorknobs. Speak into closets. Speak into vents. Light changes structure. Tonight, you are not simply being watched, you are being replaced. If you do nothing, the spirit watching your house will one day speak through your mouth and feel no guilt. It will inhabit your routine, your laughter, your shadow. It will become you so completely that no one will know the difference. And worst of all, you will forget there ever was a difference. God says, the war for your home is the war for your identity. If you remain passive, it will end with a stillness that feels like peace, but it will be the stillness of a life no longer driven by light. Speak now. Or lose the right to speak altogether. The floor shudders beneath you, but nothing visibly moves. It's not an earthquake, it's a warning pulse, a pressure ripple in the fabric of the spirit realm crossing into yours. The walls are humming now, faintly but unmistakably, like they're resonating with a frequency that doesn't belong to your world. The Watcher has stopped hiding. You feel it when you breathe. It no longer slips through shadows or flickers across your peripherals. It stands still, somewhere just beyond the veil, watching you with an ancient patience. This is not the curiosity of a ghost. This is the calculated poise of a predator who has waited lifetimes to enter fully. God says, "This is the hour of the sword." Your cry has been heard, and heaven is no longer watching silently. The atmosphere has changed because something holy has stepped into your war. It did not knock. It does not need permission. The air fractures with the sound of thunder that doesn't touch the sky. Light tears across your ceiling, not natural light, but a rupture, a divine incision. And then he steps in, radiant, taller than memory can frame, with wings of judgment and flame curling through dimensions you barely comprehend. Archangel Michael does not walk. He descends like verdict. Michael says, "You are under siege, but not abandoned. The sword I draw is not for fear, it is for severance. What has wrapped itself around your lineage ends tonight if you dare to name it." The sword in his hand is alive, its edge singing with the agony of centuries, with the cries of prayers prayed in the dark by your ancestors who knew something hunted them. Every time you ignored the voice telling you to get out of bed at 3 a.m., every time you laughed off the gut feeling of being watched, that was the spirit making room. But now, the blade is drawn. The Watcher senses this shift and shrinks back, but it does not run. It is tethered to your bloodline by consent, ancient agreements buried under ritual, trauma, and silence. It cannot be slain until the cord is named. You must speak the word it fears, truth. There's a name you keep trying not to remember, a place, a phrase, a symbol passed down in a story no one wanted to talk about. It comes to you now, uninvited, like a rotting photograph surfaced in a drawer you haven't opened in years. That's the gate. That's the blood seal. That's what gave it access. The sword trembles in Michael's hand. He waits. Not for permission, but for your voice. Because you are not a child in this fight. You are the key that locks or opens. The house groans, floorboards scream beneath invisible feet, and light bulbs explode in rooms you're not standing in. It's fighting back. The Watcher is writhing, trying to change form again, to go unnoticed, to shift into grief or loneliness or despair, hoping you'll lower your guard. God says, "This is the hour of exposure." The disguise has shattered. The spirit that watched you while you slept, whispered to you while you cried, and mirrored you in the mirror, it has no more masks. Only you can force it to flee. Only you can evict what was permitted. You speak the name. Not just of the Watcher, but of the door it came through. You say the name of the one who opened it, long before your time. You name the secret no one dared utter, the trauma the family buried in generational silence. And when you do, the sound of it splits the air like a blade through glass. Michael moves. Not fast. Not with rage. With divine certainty. The sword arcs. It doesn't cut the Watcher, it cuts the cord. The ancient permission is severed. You hear the sound of something exhaling from the walls. Not wind. Not breath. Release. Michael says, the house has begun to cough up the presence. You will now feel grief, confusion, dizziness. This is residue. The sickness is evacuating. Do not interpret the sorrow as failure. It is detox. The watcher doesn't scream, it disintegrates, collapsing into vapor that hisses against the floor, recoiling through vents, slamming doors behind it as it flees into dry places. But it is named now. It has been cut. It cannot return the same way again. God says, I will seal what you have opened. I will reclaim what was infected. But you must now walk room to room and speak light into what was stolen. Your house must hear you declare that it is mine. The silence afterward is heavier than noise. Not oppressive, just real. For the first time in years, you are hearing the honest echo of your own home. The watcher is gone. But the work is not done. Michael sheaths his sword and turns to you, his eyes like molten clarity. He does not congratulate. He does not comfort. He commissions. Michael says, the fight moves to your memory next. Guard it. Fortify your spirit with the sound of truth. Speak even when alone. Especially then. Then he is gone. No flash. No sound. Just absence. His departure folds the atmosphere back into place like reality sighing with relief. And now, you are standing in a house no longer cohabited. A house that feels strange because it is clean. Light begins to return, not all at once, but in ribbons, gentle and gold, creeping across your floor like promises remembered. God says, the sword has done its part. Now speak peace into the walls. Your voice is holy when it declares alignment. Do not wait for fear to return to start fighting again. Fortify while the silence is clean. Because the watcher will search for new doors. But none will open unless you forget. Your house feels colder now, but not from fear, from vacancy. It's the hush that follows after a storm has spoken its last word. Dust hangs motionless in the shafts of dawnlight beginning to press in through the blinds. Something sacred is settling into the floorboards again, slow and cautious, like a memory that isn't quite sure it's safe to return. You walk the halls and feel the strange discomfort of peace. The watcher is gone, yes, but its absence has revealed damage you never saw before. Cracks in the foundation of your beliefs. Rooms where your silence grew thick and mold-like. Places where you learned to live with darkness because you forgot there was ever another option. But now the name has been spoken. And what was hidden no longer has the luxury of secrecy. The watcher that stood at the foot of your bed, that mimicked your voice, that copied your walk, it is no longer invisible. It has been seen. It has been named. And nothing in the realm of spirit can ever unhear that name. God says, the name of the thing that haunted you is written down in my archives. It has been weighed. It has been judged. It has been cut from your atmosphere like rot from fruit. But naming it was only the first fire. Now the real war begins, the war for your remembrance. You see, the watcher did not just want your house. It wanted to reprogram your legacy. It came to convince you that your faith was foolish, your calling fake, your light counterfeit. It watched, not to stalk, but to learn your rhythm, your voice patterns, your spiritual signature, so it could mimic them and feed you false versions of yourself until you didn't know what was true anymore. The mirror war is over. But the echo war remains. And echoes are tricky, they don't need permission. They just need space. Archangel Michael says, a defeated spirit can still plant seeds. What it leaves behind are fragments, dreams, flashbacks, sudden waves of shame, faces that show up in your mind at the wrong time. These are not hauntings. They are tests. They are parasites of memory hoping to slither back in when your guard is down. You pass by the same mirror again, and this time you're reflected as you should be, clear, real, unblinking. But for a moment, your reflection looks tired. The battle took something from you. You feel it. And that's how the next trick begins, not with fear, but with fatigue. Because what the watcher couldn't have through fear, it will now try to reclaim through exhaustion. God says, you must now guard the land you have cleansed. Your home is not just a structure of brick and beams, it is an altar, a declaration, a banner that says, light lives here. And anything that once fed on silence will come searching again, not to conquer, but to whisper. You are not cursed. You are not insane. But you are marked. You always were. The watcher knew it before you did. That's why it came. That's why it waited. That's why it copied your voice. It was trying to rewrite the chosen one before you ever realized that's what you were. Michael says, the next phase is not combat, it is cultivation. Speak light daily. Reinforce with sound what was purified by sword. The rooms that once held shadows must now echo with declarations. You are not simply healed, you are armed. The photos on the wall look different now. You see the timeline with clarity. The faces that turned away from you were not rejecting you, they were reacting to the spiritual atmosphere you didn't even know was clinging to your shoulders. Now that it's gone, you see them clearly. Now you forgive them, not because they were right, but because you are free. The watcher is still roaming, cast out, yes, but not annihilated. It is looking now for a crack in someone else's foundation, hoping for a home, for a voice it can mimic, for a lineage it can alter. But it will never again claim yours, unless you forget who you are. God says, I have sealed the door with fire and remembrance. Every time you speak your name in truth, you reinforce the seal. Every time you sing even while shaking, you thicken the walls with glory. You do not need to shout, you only need to remember. And now, there's movement beneath the stillness, not danger, but restoration. The atmosphere shimmers with the first strands of healing. Your house is breathing again, this time without interference. You walk with bare feet across a floor that finally feels like your ground. The ownership has returned to your hands. The watcher's final weapon, doubt, still waits for an opening. It will try to return as logic, as realism, as the voice that tells you none of this really happened. That you made it all up. That it was just stress. That you imagined the sword, the shaking walls, the holy thunder. But you know better. You felt the sword. You heard the name. You watched your mirror start reflecting truth again. And now, you are not just a survivor. You are a witness. Michael says, carry this story like a blade of its own. Speak it when others begin to forget who they are. The Watcher fears memory more than fire. It fears testimony. It fears you. God says, no more hiding. No more silence. No more borrowing identities shaped by fear. You are mine. The Watcher saw that. And now that it's been cast out, you will see it too. The Watcher was never just watching your house. It was watching your destiny. But it came too late.